Hi everyone, this is Miss Jones. This is notes on science as a process. So last time we talked about earth science and what it meant, what the different parts of earth science were. So now we need to talk a little bit about what it means to be what science means in general, how science works, and specifically how it works as a process when we're going through things. So what is the goal of science? Well, the whole point is that it's supposed to explain natural phenomena. Okay? So things happen all around us all the time in the world, without even necessarily, without an understanding. You see things happen. You see chemical reactions. You see, all sorts of things throughout the world. There's physics involved in everything. And, your body is a good example. There's so many things going on in your body. Science is what we use to explain all of that, to figure out what's actually happening. In order to study science and go about things, you have to assume that nature is understandable and predictable, and also that similar forces will cause similar results. That's the basis that people use to start studying science. Without making that leap, it would make things very difficult. Those are the generalizations that we've used to say that yes, nature is going to be understandable and predictable. We can do this. That's how you figure things out. So this is kind of a little funny picture about what the scientific method is. You may or may not have seen this before. It's one of my favorites. But basically, these are the different steps of the scientific method. I'm sure you've been taught the scientific method. You've probably been taught different steps in a lot of different classes growing up. There is no one set way that says these are the exact steps of the scientific method. It's kind of individual, but these in general are what you have. You've got observation, questioning, hypothesis, prediction, experimenting, and then result. This is one of my favorite little pictures. So, again, scientific method, it's basically the whole point is that it's just organized steps to investigate something. Anytime you investigate something, if you're following these general steps, you're using the scientific method. It doesn't have to necessarily be just in a science classroom. This can be anywhere in the world that you have a question of some sort, or you observe something, you question, just wondering how something works, or wondering what's going on. You may be using the scientific method already without even realizing it. In general, like I said, the steps are just, asking a question or observing something, and then you form a hypothesis. You may have heard a hypothesis called, an educated guess. I don't really like that terminology too much, because I think it doesn't give you enough credit. I think an educated conclusion is a better phrase for a hypothesis. Basically, it's just anything about, you use the information you have and you make your best conclusion. You make your best idea about what's happening. And once you have that idea, once you believe you know what's going on, that's when you test it and you see what goes on. And then once you test it, you draw a conclusion. So yes, that is what's happening, or no, it's not. The reason I have question marks is because, a lot of times when we talk about the scientific method, it's kind of left as, like in this picture, it's like result. Well, you don't always get that result. Sometimes you experiment and it brings up more questions, or it doesn't do what you expected to. So you have to go back and you have to make a new hypothesis. You have to experiment some more. And sometimes it takes several times going back and forth before you get, that result. So that's why my last step is question marks, because sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes you have to keep going, making more hypotheses, and drawing more conclusions until finally you get your final result. So that's it for today. I hope some of this was helpful, and I hope doing this in class made more sense than doing it online for the first time. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks.